Y'all hear me okay? Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I know today weather's kind of trash. It's also election day. I just want to say, on behalf of myself and my two mentors, Kenji and Sickamore, thank you for coming out. Welcome to Intersection, where density meets creativity. This concept came to me maybe like two and a half months ago over a simple text message. I was talking back and forth with two of my mentors, and we're just trying to figure out how to, instill that knowledge and the wisdom that they pass along to me, to the greater culture, like the future, the young creatives coming up in New York. And me being a Parsons New School student, thought it was a perfect opportunity, as well as them, to bring it here and give this platform to you guys, so you can basically glean some of the insights that they passed along to me. They met roughly like 10 years ago through an email. Kenji reached out to Sickamore about just like reshaping the narrative for young creators of color here in New York City, creating new opportunities and breaking down barriers and whatnot. And from there they joined forces and done some great things, from Travis Scott to Shaq to Kenji's company with Future Current, and Sick with Interscope and his photography and whatnot. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this along to these guys, and thank you for coming out.
Sorry late. All right, thanks everybody for coming. So, as you know, my name is Kenji Summers.
Sickamore.
And we're going to try to provide you with 12 steps where destiny meets creativity. Along the way, we'll be sharing our story, how we met, and how we both kind of got busy, right? We're both from Brooklyn. We both have Caribbean ancestry, Sickamore and myself. I was able to vote today.
We're both creatives, and we're both coming up in a time in New York where creatives wasn't really a thing. You know what I'm saying? And we kind of had to figure it out. But one of the things we're going to do today, speaking of Parsons, like the epicenter of young creatives, we wanted to show different paths of how you can make it in this industry and show that it's not linear. Being a creative is not linear, and that's our main goal for today.
Yeah, so quick introduction on how we both met. Sick is a prolific internet star. If you understand about meme culture, he had a blog, was it Thank God I'm Famous? Right? Which is where all the early trolls met up. And I mean all the early trolls. So they would give Tekashi 6ix9ine a run for their money today. Right? And I mean, this is the era where Dipset was kind of running New York in terms of coming on the internet culture, right? G-Unit was having a moment. And Sickamore was able to provide a place digitally where folks could come kind of meet people like themselves, through anonymous handles, right? But one thing I loved about Sick is that even though he started in the mixtape game, which was in the streets, how many people remember mixtapes, on the streets? All right, that's impressive. So Sick, I'm going to tell more about that story, but how I learned about Sick was through the mixtapes. And along the way, through his blog, I made sure that I was staying abreast of everything he had going on. The first thing you saw when you went to Thank God I'm Famous was a picture of white Jesus wearing a Yankee fit. All right? That was the culture, and it is still the culture in New York. But around that time, I had a friend named Julius Dunn, at the time of the One Club. And Julius had wrote on a advertising publication called Ad Age, which I was a frequent visitor of. I was working in the advertising industry. I just got in. And that article was about how the industry talks about the importance of youth and diversity. They talk about it on stages like this, but they're not actually doing anything about it. And knowing that Sick was in music and that I was in advertising, there was an intersection that we knew 10 years ago that in 2009, if we figured that out, figured out what that tension was, we provided compassion, right? At that meeting point, that tension, we could be doing some crazy things, amazing things 10 years from now. So that's why we're here today. It's because we learned from a few mentors, right? Not a lot, but a few select mentors, the importance of mentorship. Anybody here have a mentor? Not as many as I hoped for, but it speaks to that point, right? A lot of the OGs that we came up with, what they were taught by their OGs was yo, put your head down and work. Don't worry about getting the accolades. Don't worry about getting any shine. Don't worry about like having to share your information later on. Just keep it to yourself. It's not our business to teach you business or teach them business. Well, for us, it's our business to teach you about our business and what led to our creativity, right?
Yeah, I was working with somebody and I was telling them I was doing this, and they said, "Man, you do that shit when you're 50, man." You know what I mean? You know, like talking to kids and stuff. But I feel like it's really important that you do it now while you're doing it. You know, I wish Steph Curry would talk about something like this while he's on the court right now, dropping 32 a night. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important that we talk and we be a part of one community. You know what I mean? Especially, I see a lot of POC in here, and that makes me really proud. You know, it makes me noise when you voted today. It also makes me proud. You know, and I you know, one thing I really understand about running around the streets in New York City just trying to figure it all out. You know what I'm saying? As a creative, that's how me and Kenji met from that email. You know, we just get up every single day, play basketball, meet at little coffee shops, just come up with different ideas that might or might not work. He was in advertising, I'm in music. I was just trying to figure it out at the time. I was working in mixtapes and I fell off, and he was killing it. And he came up with this one campaign called Come On LeBron, where he would create this grassroots initiative to help LeBron James come to New York, which I thought was absolutely genius. And over the last 11 years, we've been linking and working until we found the intersection with Sheck West. So, without further ado, Kenji Summers.
So everybody, in this presentation, I'm going to try to make it as interactive and as fun and engaging as possible. I understand when you see somebody in front of a podium or a lectern, it can get hella boring, hella quick, right? Am I right? Yeah. All right, true. So what we're giving you right now, what I'm hoping to give you right now is a free game, no tax included. And where we're talking about the intersection right now, it's going to be where destiny meets creativity. So my hope right now is to give you tools that you can use to apply to your personal brand, your individual brand, or institutional brand. So companies that you may work for, maybe want to work for, whether you're in school, whether you're out of school, whether you have your own company, whatever you're doing, if it's an intersection of all of those, I hope we give you this game so you can kind of get it cracking. So, in order to give you this game, I got to give you the context of who I am, right? My name is Kenji Summers. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, from Best Side, exactly. And a lot of people that know me, probably of this past year, I would say, came to know about me from a song that Sheck West has called Chippy Chippy. Anybody know Chippy Chippy? Yeah. All right, so when that song came about, probably around the time I was still at Nike, and I remember Sheck had like a bunch of records that he was coming to the office telling me about, and Chippy Chippy was one of them that when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this goes. But it wasn't until like the last verse where he goes, I was up at Nike, put that on Kenji. And I remember hearing it and I was like, I don't know if that means something, but I'm gonna like bookmark that and like just think about it later on. And I remember it was one of the DJs or the producers from Take a Day Trip that produced the Movember record that said, yo, you kind of just got etched in hip hop history or like on a hip hop monument. I don't really think that's the case, but what it made me aware of was that in 2018, there was a kind of conversation I was a part of, whether I was looking to have it or not. So, starting with that, like the first thing I did with that insight was I went onto the internet again, right? Because I was explaining to you how I met Sickamore originally. It was like from the internet culture, right? Like this is before Twitter, this is before Instagram. We were really on blogs at the time and internet forums. So for me, it started with Boxden, and then when I learned about the Chippy Chippy song, I went on KanyeTiller.com. Anybody have a account on KanyeTiller.com or ever heard of it? Yeah. Word, shout out to y'all. I see y'all. So yeah, on that account, my name was Nas.com. I changed it when Chippy Chippy came on because at the end of the day, I was like, the reason I got here was because of friendship and mentorship, right? So somebody like Sickamore giving me friendship early on, you just reaching out to him on the internet. And then also somebody like Ouija Theodore was in the audience today through mentorship. Ouija also had a blog that when Brooklyn Circus was beginning out, everybody came on, it was in the comment section, and it was pulling up to real life events. So it was really like, how can I get back to the internet? So I created a thread on KanyeTiller, and essentially it was all about like just sharing advice and insights that I had from my experience, not just working with Sheck, but also just working at Nike and all the other companies I worked at before. So getting further into the intro, while I no longer work at Nike, I do work with Sheck, and as the founder of Future Current, it's a consultancy that uses future thinking and present actions to address brand problems while reframing them into brand opportunities. And over the past year, I've mined all my experiences in education to craft a fresh framework I call the Brand Diamond. This is to help individual and institutional brands find their destiny. And I'll explain what that means, destiny, because a lot of people might mean a lot of different things. For me, a destiny, as I'm describing today, is an incarnation objective, which is what begins with the birth of your brand, or when your brand needs to begin again. And it's the lesson that you need to learn along the way, right? A lot of us, I think, are inundated with wins and losses in this culture, right? Like, who's winning, who's losing. When I learned about the idea of destiny, what it made me center on is that throughout everything, there's going to be lessons that I need to learn throughout my life and through all my endeavors. And if I can concentrate on the lessons, nothing's truly a loss. And so that keeps to this quote that kind of sets up everything I'm about to share today. Learn the lesson and you will never experience the loss. And that's what I call it Kenjiism. And it's just something that's a joke with me and my friends, where sometimes I would have some things come to me off the top of my head, or probably from other people that I heard about before, and I would just share it on Instagram. So I share that on my Instagram stories like every other week, right? And this is just one I have for today. So this takes me into the brand diamond, right? So if you think about the shape of a diamond, this is when it starts getting interactive, right? So when I think about the brand diamond, essentially you would imagine, right, a setup of different steps, right? So you think about right here will be your world, right? I'm literally gonna take you through it. So if you ever need to do it because you're stuck or you want to begin something, you have the ammo to go about doing it, right? So as you start with the world, this is where you need to think about where you are and who you're around. Like, how many of us ever think about the people we're around either like continue to propel us forward or hold us back? Anyone feeling that right now with their life? Like, you got people that are holding you back versus pushing you forward? Now be real, like if it's not the case, then I mean, you're living a great life. Right. I still got people in my life that hold me back. I'm probably holding people back in their life. But ultimately, we want to like balance that out, right? We want to find a way to find people that are pushing and propelling us forward, right? But it also matters like where you are, right? How many of us are living in situations or going to school or working in environments that we feel are holding us back rather than pushing us forward? Am I right? Anybody relate? I've been there. Trust me, I've been there. And so the idea is, in your world, this is when you really get to ask your question towards yourself about where you're at today. And on the brand diamond, the point is, you start on the left side, you start asking these questions to yourself, you get really clear and honest, and then you come back on the other side after you identify your destiny. And then by the time you get back to your world, now you're in a future state, right? Like, when I think about future, I think about futurism. I think about being a futurist. I never like to get stuck where we're at, but I do like to act in the place where I'm at, right? So Weezy always had a saying when I first met him was like, dip your bucket where you stand. And so this world where we're at right now, right? So the way I first started thinking about this was through my own experience, right? So nothing I'm going to tell you about is something that I didn't have to go through my own, right? I'm from Bed-Stuy. They say Bed-Stuy, do or die. How I look at that as a strategist is that I have a combative solo will, right? Anybody think about will and like how it gets you going, it moves you forward, right? Now, if you have a combative solo will, that means you're not willing to take anything from anyone, right? Which, being in New York, we feel like that abrasiveness kind of gets us going, right? It kind of makes us who we are. What I would say about that, it might get you started, but it might not get you to where you want to go. So what got you here might not get you there. So one thing I had to learn through my life and my world was that do or die mentality, while it may get me going, it might have got me started, it might not get me to my finish line, right? And so moving into my world, I had to start thinking about what are some things I can start doing, or where are places I can start putting myself so that I can experience the type of life that I want to. And so going into this next slide, D's, right? What are you doing on the daily? For me, these become rituals, right? Like, these are the things that in your life you got to take inventory of. Like, how are you spending your time minding your money on a daily basis? You know, anybody have like a ritual that like they're super pleased with, that they do it every day? Yeah. For me, it's meditation, right? This was like my 317th day meditating in a row, right? And I would say that I credit that for being able to clear my mind every single day of like the doubts I may have, but also preparing me for the future that I want to have. And I would say, looking at D's, for me, when I was working in advertising, because that's where I started in advertising, and then wanted to transition into another career where I was getting to work more with brands on kind of like the sports side of things. Because my background was in sport management. I went to UMass Amherst and majored in sport management and took a lot of advertising courses. Since by the time I did my last internship, which was at Converse, I had the opportunity to learn about the intersection of sport and advertising. So coming back to the intersection, it was meeting somebody at that time in a meeting that was a person that ended up hiring me 10 years later at Nike. And so while I'm gonna jump back and forth and I'm gonna find these intersectional points, of course at the end we're gonna have Q&A so it all can become super clear to y'all. So I'm gonna try to be as linear as possible, just knowing that none of these stories we're gonna share, sticking on, are going to be linear. Can I get an agreement on that? Is that cool? Yeah. All right, good. So thinking about these, like what are you doing on a daily? So making sure that your rituals are positive and healthy, that are not only helping you, but helping other people. In gifts, what do you have to offer to others? For me, I had to dig back down deep and realize like the things I went to school for, the things that I thought I was good at or that people thought were good that I did were not necessarily the gifts I had to give to the world. So whether you consider like a most high to be a concept of God or most high to be universe or most high to be like people that you want to be like in the world, right? The idea is like understanding that you have your own gifts that no one else has in the world, and that while that might be hard to fathom right now with the state you may be in, whether you're a student, whether you're early in your career, maybe you're stuck in your career, just knowing that you have unique personal gifts that make you the great person that you are and are to become. So for me, when I did an inventory and looked at my gifts, it was really identifying that I had an uncanny ability to connect individuals, institutions, and ideas through community. And so one of the ways I did that early on was through an organization called Passport Project, which became Passport Life, which was presented in the title. And Passport Life essentially was helping young people under the age of 25 get their first passport. So we founded in 2010, 2011, along with a select group of people. We were able to go on like a pretty dope trip where I found a young man named Brian Blue, also known as Blue the Great on Instagram and Twitter, who is now a fine artist, a visual artist, is collaborating with everyone from Jordan to Nike to everyone you can imagine. But at the time when I met him, he did not have a passport. He was living in Dallas, and he had aspirations to go from having a clothing line and kind of like making ends meet to being somebody that was fully on his own, living somewhere else. And so going through these steps with him was taking him outside of his comfort zone, right? Taking him outside of his world and helping create new rituals, right? New deeds that he could be a part of. So we did a trip to Equatorial Guinea. Anybody know where Equatorial Guinea is? Word. I didn't. It's in West Africa. It's the only Spanish-speaking country in that area on the continent. And through that experience, it changed me, but I also saw it change Blue, where when he came back, he felt like the world was his oyster. So the stuff you see like a Virgil doing now, or you see kids that are coming up under Virgil doing, where they're like at Paris Fashion Week, Milan, such and such, everywhere, right? Our idea with Passport Life was like get somebody out of their context of where they're living and staying and doing their thing, put them somewhere new, but also have them experience a cognitive rupture. But then when the pieces fall down, having people around them, essentially like a village, right, that can put those pieces back together in a brand new way. And so when Blue, for example, came back, I saw his gifts exponentially grow, right? Well, now he had this approach to art where he was mummifying the subjects to show the decay or the preservation, right? He now was like putting it on like 3D objects. He now is doing it to kind of show political messages, like mummifying the American flag and turning it upside down and doing it grayscale. Ultimately, travel for him exposed into those gifts that he now is able to bring to the world on an everyday basis. You know, moving on to convictions, like truths, right? For like looking at convictions, what are the truths that you have, right? Like these are the things that you stand on sturdy, like that hold you down and make you who you are, where people may not see them, but they understand them when they're around you. I think in my case, when I look at convictions that I stand on, it's something like peace is your nature, right? And that nothing and no one is against you. The idea about that is that if you start with peace is your nature, then when challenges come around, you can reframe them to be what you need them to be, because you don't have to emotionally act or respond to things, right? And the idea that nothing and no one is against you, that everything that comes to you is just a life lesson, right? Again, coming back to lessons. None of this stuff that we're engaged with in society right now, whether it be political, economic, work-related, school-related, I promise you, nothing is truly against you, and it might not sound like like super clear right now, but it will as we kind of go through understanding these different levels to get to the top, which is the destiny. In terms of archetype, like who are you? When I look at this question, I think about what is your identity, both general and specific, both big and small, right? And so when I look at myself, what I hope to do now, and I hope to do in the future, is figuring out how I can be more of a guide, right, to others, be more of like the sage archetype, where the lessons that I experienced in my life, that I learned from, the wins or the losses that I've encountered, I can find a way to impart those to people that need them the most at this moment, right? So whether it be like a teacher, whether it be a speaker, whether it be just a mentor or somebody to provide advice, the idea is how can I do for you what I wanted others to do for me or what others did for me. And how I look at this in terms of experiences with work, in terms of archetype, I had to find out how to be a mentor by being a mentee. And so with people like Ouija, Julius Dunn of the One Club, and now BPM, think about Tiffany R. Warren of Ad Color, and Lincoln Stevens of the Marcus Graham Project, and many others, Stanley Lumax, formerly of Translation. These people all put their time in as like a sage archetype for me to be able to learn what a sage was, right? And some of you might find your archetype to be more like a hero, right? Like if you think about brands in terms of archetypes, a Nike would be a hero brand, right? They will possess that archetype because at the end of the day, what they're here to do is save you from yourselves. Just do it, get you to go and put your will into motion. And that's what that brand represents. For an Adidas example, they would be a creative, right? They would be the one that creates something out of nothing, that takes the bare bones or the spare ingredients and as an alchemist transforms it into something that everyone could enjoy, even though they didn't know they were supposed to enjoy it. And so for you, I asked you this question. Like, these are the first question I'm really asking to you to like say to yourself in your head, or if you have a note or a piece of paper and a pen or pencil to write this down, like, who are you? And be very like detailed when you can answer this question, like, who are you? Because when you figure out who you are, you're really able to move forward into your destiny and then go back and then get clear on all the other levels. My client right now, one of them is Stan Goody. Stan Goody is an artist that is based in LA, but from Camden, New Jersey. And he makes music, he's a rapper, and he has a song called Clutch. He also has a music video for that same title. And he just won the LA Film Festival's audience category. And the thing that made that such an interesting experience for me to work on is because before that video came out, we did a brand destiny diamond exercise. And as we went through the different steps, when we got to archetype, the archetype that we had for Stan that he helped answer and I helped to refine was the ethical vigilante. And so if anybody has seen the video or when you watch the video, you'll see his character throughout be tested by a particular set of like laws or rules or how you're supposed to move as an athlete, because it's about a young runner. And as he gets tested, he has to come up with decisions that either take him along the route that everyone said he should be on, or to go on a different route that puts him on another path, kind of as an ethical vigilante. So when we think about an ethical vigilante, you may think of a character like Batman, right? Whereas in Gotham, he could have did things the police would, right? But things might not have changed. They might not have got better. So Batman had to find a way as a Dark Knight and through his evolution, find things that he could do to bring, a more just society to Gotham. And so last, and certainly not least, and it's most important here, is what are you here to learn? So bringing it back to not wins, not losses, but lessons. And when you figure out that lesson that you have to learn, things become a lot clearer as you go through life. And I promise you, like, if you just today leave whatever you thought was a loss and reframe it into a lesson, you're going to be in a situation where you can now find a way to find the positivity in what happened and be able to share with someone else how to get through what they're going through. So at this point, I wanted to bring Sick back on stage because there's a moment that we had recently where we were going through a moment where we had an artist that we both were working with, and they kind of like had gone through this framework, but essentially we were now at a point where we talk about the Monk Boy rollout, where we're now having to figure out how do we get him to like live out who he says he is and what his destiny is. And so we can share a little bit about that.
I got another idea though.
Yeah.
You think you could do the brain archetype for me? that we can break down? All right, cool.
All right, so this is going to be live. I've never done this before.
I just started this right now.
All right. So in terms of archetype, thinking about Sickamore, right? You think about like what are the inputs, right? He's Trinidadian. He's from the islands, right? From Brooklyn. Grew up in Pittsfield. Dodgers for life. Brooklyn, yeah. Facts. Grew up in Pittsfield, so Brooklyn Dodgers. Music man, has a crazy ear. Before all of the A&R and photography stuff, he was a dope DJ, mixtaping otherwise. And so we take these inputs and we start thinking about there's 12 archetypes that exist, right? I'm not going to go through all of them. I mentioned a couple of them here over created, right? Now, I'm going to do one better.
I want to know all of them. What's like all of them?
So I'll give you that I think relate to Sycamore. So let's keep it on you. All right, to you, because we're going to teach everyone else through you.
I'm going to touch on you.
Right. So when I think about Sid, one archetype that comes up to me is creative. He's somebody that's taken circumstances that might not have been favorable, whether it be living in Trinidad and, you know, climbing up a coconut tree. Or
mango tree.
Mango tree, that's it. Climbing up a mango tree, shaking some mangoes down to bring his family to coming to Brooklyn and having to transition into like 90s Brooklyn, right? 90s New York. He really took something and made it, and he took nothing and made it a large amount of something. But one thing I've noticed with Sick is every time he goes into circumstances with artists he works with or clients, he's kind of like the Phil Jackson of the crew. And so when we think about Phil Jackson, right, we think about what? The guru, right? The sage, the Zen master. What's that? Triangle offense. That's Sick as well. So if I take those two, I think about the creative sage, I think about Sycamore. So if I thought about an archetype for Sick, just off the top of my head, it would be the creative sage. He's somebody that can create something out of nothing, but once he's created something, he wants to give it back and share it with the world. How's that sound?
Feels good. I feel like I'm ready for my destiny.
And so, like, just sticking on Sycamore for this, destiny-wise, what are you here to learn? We've had this conversation slightly, but Sick is one of those people that he changes his mind a lot, and he goes through a lot of iterations. He's like perpetually in beta, and he's a multi-hyphenate, right? So he's steadily confused, probably like most people in this business. So for Sick, I'm gonna have you answer this, man. What do you think your destiny is today?
I think my destiny, I feel like a lot of people, and most people, when they talk about their story, no matter what they do, they go back home. And Trinidad's not a bad place. It's actually a really nice place. Shout out to my mom. She's from Trinidad. I think my final destiny, because as a sage, as somebody who feel like I'm blossoming later in life, I would like to eventually take what I do here in America after coming here at 5 and being successful in using art or photography and whatever I want to do something like a Parsons, but back in the Caribbean. Because is anybody here from Caribbean descent? So one thing when you're growing up in Caribbean descent, being a creative isn't a thing. You know what I mean? Being a lawyer is a thing. Being a teacher, a banker, that's a thing. But being a creative is not a thing, And I think eventually, if I apply my grand archetype, I think my destiny is eventually to be able to build a Parsons level of school in Trinidad, in Jamaica, in Cuba, in Barbados, to see the next generation of kids come up and be able to link with first, second generation Caribbean entrepreneurs and business people so that they have like a runway for jobs. That's like the biggest goal I have, and I think that's my destiny. And I think if I could accomplish that, then my life would be worth something.
So as we've gotten to destiny, I think Sycamore coming up, and like one thing that we've always done and that we continue to do is like run audibles, like as friends, as like business partners. He kind of can like read my mind really well. I have a good job, I think, doing it for him. And so like understanding, like balancing out, like creative and strategy, like destiny, creativity, it's really about intersection. And like, again, when I mentioned intersection earlier, it was about understanding the tension that happens right away. Because like how many times you see when like cars are like going forward, like there's somebody honking, there's somebody that's hesitant, somebody's aggressive, right? You ever notice that? or even like in the past where people are walking, like, you know, you're going through campus or you're like walking the streets in New York, people are like kind of angry, moving forward, they kind of like trying to get through, right? But like when you start understanding like how to provide compassion at those intersections, that's when you start finding the magic, right? And the thing that we started with was there were a lot of adults in points of leadership in the advertising and the music industries that they were not seeing the benefits of intersection or intersectionality. They looked at it as like a weakness, like, oh, that person can't focus, or that person's confused, as I joked about earlier. And for us today is to show that, like, whether it be music, sport, culture, branding, and marketing, those intersections are fantastic if you're able to show compassion at those intersections. And so we're really looking at y'all as a generation that can provide that compassion at the intersection, so that the folks that are in positions of power, they get it, and if they don't get it, they can get lost, and y'all can be up there to make the decisions. But most importantly, before we transition into creativity and six creative steps to creativity, or process to creativity, is understanding like it's really going to be up to you to use this to help yourself, but once you do, making sure you help others. They say each one teach one. As you rise up, reach back. And that's one thing I can say about like us sharing this, is to make sure that it grows exponentially. Like in a few years, there should be somebody in this room today that should be on stage speaking to another generation, to another set of people, right? So that they can have games, so that they can go help themselves and help other people. So as we kind of came to the end of Destiny, we're going to get into Sickamore, SVP of A&R, creative director at Interscope Records, self-taught photographer, one of my best friends, if not my best friend. Everybody give it up. But once again,
one more time for Kenji Summers, everybody. I'm gonna talk a little bit about, if I can, 10 minutes into my story, because I feel like my story fits a lot of people in this room. As I look at the people in the room, I feel like I'm one of you. Even me, and I was, and I still am. You just at a different point in my life. I was born in Trinidad, as previously noted, and came into this country when I was 4 or 5 months. 5, you know. And we moved to the Bronx. We moved to Brooklyn a year later. And all through school, I was like a B student. I was decent, you know. And I didn't know whether I wanted to be a baseball player or I wanted to be a lawyer. I think at one point when I was in high school, I wanted to be a sports agent, you know, and that was my thing. So I did a series of internships all through school. I worked at Prospect Park Alliance. I worked at Fox News Channel. I worked at Goldman Sachs. I was basically a Republican, you know. And then finally, I got my senior year. I got my dream job. I got when I interviewed at Nike Town, 57th Street, and I got a letter in the mail. I think maybe like on September 8th that I got it, and I was so excited. I'm like, yes, I'm going to my senior year fresh. You know what I mean? 35% off. You know, like I
40%.
40% off. And that would have been my destiny. You know, I would have been moving to Portland, working with Nike, working with Kenji, and I would have been, you know, I've been a Nike lifer. But then, luckily, I'm old, so I had to live through 9/11. And 3 days later, 9/11 happened. And maybe about a week later, we got a letter in the mail saying that they're gonna have to put off the hirings for a while. Then maybe about a month later, they said, listen, we're gonna freeze indefinitely. And I was really devastated, and I was like, okay, I never want to work for anybody again. I never want to have somebody take away my job again, you know? So at that point, for the next 5 years, I was just hustling. You know, I had my friend Terrence in school, and I used to do custom mixtapes for people in school. And he said, you know what, if you do one mixtape, you can sell it on Canal Street in downtown Brooklyn, and you can sell it to everybody. I'm like, word? He's like, word. So back in the day, you used to have to burn CDs, and you have to burn one every 20 minutes. You know, it was a real long process. So I burned 25 CDs, they were called Anthrax on Wax. I printed on my dad's printer, and I hit the streets, right? I went to Canal Street. I said, yo, I'm popping in Brooklyn, you gotta buy my CDs. You know, how many of you from New York City, like for real? Yeah. Like, we can talk to anybody. We can sell anything. So I'm like, yeah, man, I'm popping in Brooklyn, da-da-da-da-da-da. And this guy goes, all right, give me 10, you know? So I got $20 back on the train on Canal. I go downtown to Brooklyn to Fulton Street. I go to Bar and Bazaar, I don't know if that's there anymore. And I go in the store, I tell the guy, yeah, I'm popping in the city, uptown, da-da-da-da. So he buys 15, you know? And it's my dad's home phone number on the back. So I'm like, all right, cool, you know? So like, I think those CDs sold for like $3 each, the other CD sold for $2 each. So I'm walking home with I don't know, 60, I don't know, so I'm sorry, guys. And then the next day I get a phone call from the guy in Brooklyn. He says, yo, your CD's sold out. I want 100 CDs. So I'm like, 100 CDs? It took me 2 days to make them. I didn't go to school for the next 2 days. That's not good. Burnt the CDs, went to them from Nobody Feast to Is, put them all in the case, took the train, I was living in Fordham Road at the time, all the way back down. And he's like, yo, man, I needed these yesterday. You know? I'm like, I'm sorry, man, it was sold out of town, so I had to come down, you know? But, you know, then he gave me $250, and I never looked back at that point, because that was the first time I really made money without a paycheck. You know, that was like my first step of being like an independent creative. And I'll just move around for the next few years. You know, 20 cities, 100 cities turn to 200, 200 turn to 400, 400 turn to 800. I didn't have no plan. I was just 17 years old going for it, you know what I mean? I'll go to 14th Street, Canal Street, Atlantic Avenue, 125th, 145th, Fordham Road, 165, all on the train until I made enough money to hire two of my friends to drive me around to school. Until I made enough money to buy a booth in my local neighborhood, get an LLC from $2,000 from a guy in the church. Brother Jones, Brother Joseph, Brother Williams. And I started my first LLC, and that was great. You know, and I was in business. I was 17 years old. I hired some people, and I was rocking and rolling. I didn't really have a plan. Everything was just coming to me. So whatever people told me to do, I would do. You know, as time went along, somebody was like, you know, you should be an A&R. I'm like, word. What's that? And it's like, oh, you know, you gotta find beats and find artists. I'm like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? So I'm like moving around the streets. I get a job. I get Beat Street Records, and then I meet this guy, Just Blaze. He's a big producer. And like, you know, like as a young creative, when you coming up, you just looking for somebody to bump into. Like anybody who can get you on for what you want to do. And when you see him, like, oh, you fucked up now. And that's what happened with him, you know. So I went and got my number. I'm like, yo, I got to plug unique some kind of clothing company, the one with the NBA patches on it, you know. And I'm like, I'll just do some boxes, da 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 da. But that got me in the door. So one thing, whatever's gonna get you in the door, whatever you got to connect with, if you got a family member, a homeboy working full out there, somebody like sneakers, jewelry, women clubs, whatever you can do, that's your plug. Anything, use it. You know what I mean? Because you never know what's gonna get you in the door. You know what I mean? So talking to him, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I'm gassing him up. He worked at Rockefeller Records, and he was an in-house producer, him and Kanye West. So this is 2003. So at the time, it's like Jay-Z just dropped. Anybody like Jay-Z in? Jay-Z album? So Jay-Z just finished the Black album. Kanye was about to drop College Dropout. So this is my gap. I was like, yo, you know, Jay-Z retiring. You know, Kanye about to pass you. But what you gonna do? Like, you know, you need a label. You need an artist. You know, and I'm like, I can find your artist. I can just make me the A&R. I remember I barely have any experience. So he made me a deal. And he's like, yo, I'm gonna make you the A&R if you find me an artist, but you can't get any money until we get a distribution deal, right? I'm like, cool. You know what I mean? I got business cards, I'm moving around. I changed my name on, what was it, Black Planet at the time? Maybe MySpace, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, and I found an artist though. I found a guy named Sickamore. We ended up working for like 9 months. Oh, that's cool. And we ended up getting a deal 9 months later at Atlantic Records. So that was my narrative at the time. That was my story. So I started getting all this press. This 19, 20-year-old kid, he's an A&R, and I'm just like, cool. Then, you know what I mean? I'm a double XL, I'm in the source, I'm moving around, getting press. And then when they get the deal was like $650. And I think the deal was like $750,000. Well, however the math added up, I got zero. And that was like my first introduction to the music business. And I was like, fuck this, you know what I mean? So like, you know, it was tough. And then, so then, what I ended up doing, I found another guy from LES, his name was True Life. I ended up working with him, got him a record deal, and then, like, you know, they gave me a commission off that, and everybody started calling me, including people who signed Sickamore, people at Atlantic Records. And one of the guys got me, Keanu Hip Hop Joshua, he called me in and really took me in as a mentor. And one thing that, you know, that me and Kenji always benefited from, we collect mentors. And the trick to collecting a mentor is not to go on and say, like, yo, can I be your mentee? The trick to being a mentee is just do it. You know what I mean? Don't ask them permission. Email them all the time. But don't email them stuff or call them or text them, which is helpful stuff every time. Yo, do you hear about this party? Yo, do you know about this artist? Hey, you should check this out. Hey, I see you liking this on Instagram. You should do this. You know what I mean? And eventually, like, next thing you know, you can be around them every day. And that's what I did. That was my strategy. I would just find somebody I liked and I harass them until they had no choice. So I got my first job at Atlantic Records. And my negotiation went like this. He introduced me to the CEO. And he's like, yo, man, tell me your stories. I told him everything I just told you. You know, everything. And he's like, so, well, we want you here at Atlantic Records. His name is Craig Cowan. And I'm like, all right, cool, but I got 2 points. I'm like, 1, I need an office. He's like, sure. And like, 2nd, I need a cool title. And he's like, I was director of A&R style. I'm like, yes, and you know what I mean? So boom, I got that. I got a corporate card. You know what I mean? I'm moving around. But this is like the first time in my life. You know, this is 5 years now. I'm just like flowing without a plan. I'm just doing whatever I got to do, whatever the next opportunity is given to me. You know? And then when I get there, that's when I first started my first bumps in the road. I don't know if anybody here held a corporate job. There's 3 parts. Yeah, it sucks. There's 3 parts to a corporate job. There's the technical part of the job, which is like what you actually do. There's the political side of the job that you won't know till you're there for a long time. And there's a cultural side of the job, whether they bring dogs to the office or wearing suits, you know what I mean? Like, and you don't really know those parts at 21, 22, 23 years old. You just fresh off the street, like, you know what I mean? I'm ready to do whatever. And I had a lot of tumbles at that point, you know? My mentor who hired me left a few months later. I was signed artists, they took the artists away from me. I got frustrated, I wrote on that blog a resignation letter. I'm like, man, I'm gonna start an artist development company, you know? I'm like, fuck the labels, let's do it myself. Artist develop. I got like, it was like a Jerry Maguire moment. I got like 8 interns that come with me. And I got to trap out like the 24th floor because a guy named Joey Manda, the Silent Records, let me work out there in Todd Moskowitz. And I worked there for a little while. I was doing a lot, but I was doing too much with no focus, you know? So I had like artist development clients, I had like management clients, and I had this one client from Queens that I really, really wanted. Her name was Nicki Minaj, you know? And Nicki had just started on the Come Up DVD, and she had like this rap, like when she was in the tub over the Wannabe. Anybody ever seen that? And I was like, oh shit, I need to find her. So I phoned up on her, like, yo, I'm Trinidadian like you know what I mean? And, you know, I just talk, you know, that's what we do, right? New Yorkers, we talk. And I got the gig, and, you know, boom, I was Nicki Minaj's manager. And I would just get her shows and do stuff. I did a second mixtape, whatever, and things were going good. But then I didn't really have no focus. You know what I mean? I didn't really have no goal, I was still going. That was the time like things started falling apart. I didn't have a job anymore. And I had management clients, I had art development clients, I had a label client, and I wasn't putting time and attention into what's important, you know? And as an entrepreneur, as a creative, you gotta manage your schedule with stuff that pays the bills versus stuff that is for the future. You know what I'm saying? Versus stuff that's there for the future. And one day, you know, we started bumping heads, and I was in Maryland with a management client, with an artist development client, and my car broke down. And she was at a Vibe magazine shoot in New York. And she called me like, yo, where are you? I don't have a trailer, this and that. And at this point, this was like the biggest piece of press in her career. Vibe was still a thing. And like, she was like a really cool outfit. And she's screaming at me the worst thing my mother ever screamed at me. She was like, you so-and-so, what kind of manager are you? You're supposed to have all these people, where are they? Da, 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 da. And I was like, man, fuck this. Look, I quit. And she calls me back. She's like, you sure? You sure you know what you're doing right now? I'm like, yeah, man, I don't want anybody talking to me like this. I quit, fine. You know what I mean? I dropped Nicki Minaj as a client. And while it sounded like a good move today, it wasn't a good move. It was a good move. Because the next thing she did was drop like super bass. You know what I mean? And like, you know, I was still in my mom's house. You know what I'm saying? And you know, she started blowing up. The company started falling apart. I got an opportunity to go to LA to work. I went to move to LA for like 5-6 months. Somebody gave me some money. I blew right through it. Look, you know, I started having some trouble there, and it was just like, it was all bad. I just came back home, and I went to like a real dark spot. I moved back. I broke up with a good girl. I got with a bad girl. Me and her were in a dark relationship, and then I was living in like Lyndhurst, New Jersey. It was bad. I don't know where that is. So, you know, I love books, man. I love books. So one day she's like, we have Barnes & Nobles. And I definitely, till this point in my life, Barnes & Nobles was like my college. I didn't get a chance to go to college. You heard my story. But I would go to the Barnes & Nobles on 17th between Park and Broadway. And I would stay there for hours every day because my mom worked next door. So I would just go there and I'd treat that like my library, any kind of disposable income, I would buy books. But at this time, I ran out of money. So one day with Barnes & Nobles, I had like 3 books in my hand. And she was like, baby, can I get some money for books? She was like, nah, you got mad books at home, read those. And at that point, I'm like, man, like, I'm a loser. It sucks. And then, so I went to sleep that night and I woke up. And I remember that day, it was June 9th, 2009. And I was like, something has to change. Like, this can't be it. You know what I mean? I was about 24 years old. You know what I mean? And I felt like I had peaked. You know, I felt like my best days might have been behind me. You know? It was dark, you know. It's tough, it's easy to spiral at that point, you know. So I think I had $80 in my name. So I took some money, I think it was like $4. You know, you got no money, you got $30. Took it to 350 or 550, took the New Jersey Transit. I went like down to 34th Street, then I took the train to Chinatown, bought a notebook, and I think the notebook was like $24, and I bought a pen, and I went in this bench. It's a nice notebook. I like stationery, I'm sorry. So yeah, I got money, you know. So then I wrote a plan out, you know, and I wrote a plan. I wrote everybody who loves me in like the left-hand corner, like 15 people I knew that really cared for me in my life. And then I wrote out a plan, and I was like, a 5-year plan. And I was like, I'm gonna be the best A&R, and I'm gonna start an artist development company, and I don't care how long it's gonna take. I'm gonna stay in it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. You know what I mean? And from that point on, for the next 4.5 years, I kept that piece of paper in my pocket, you know? And I think year 1, I started doing shows in Williamsburg. I called it Famous Factory, and that was cool. Actually, the first thing I did was break up with my girlfriend. And then year 1, I started doing shows. I got some money from a client to do shows, and so I started building out a crowd. Year 2, I moved to LA, like unofficially again. Year 3, year 2, I moved to LA and got him a record deal with Warner Brothers. So what I used to do is another trick, right? If somebody lets you in your corporate office without like no internship, no nothing, but you can go up there all the time, just go up there every day. If you could go up there. If you go there after work, go up there any days off. If you got a friend or homie who's gonna let you in, you got that stupid little pass, just do it. Because the more people see you, the more they're like, man, I like you, what you doing, man? Like,
Yo, so one note on that, like, I didn't get too deep into checking out Matt, but it was literally that situation right there, where I got introduced to him. I was like, yo, I need to meet him tomorrow. And at like 10:30 p.m., Shaq was in the office, and for 2 years, he was in the office 3 to 4 days a week after his last class, or if he didn't even go to class.
It's a cheat code, because it's like, I work there, I just don't get paid, you know what I'm saying? So I was doing that at Warner Brothers, and I was showing every day, and you gotta make sure you show up to look presentable, you know what I'm saying? So whatever you can do, you got bar shows, you got watch clothes every day, whatever you gotta do, just get there presentable, and never let us see you sweat, you know what I'm saying? And I'll do that for a long time. And I didn't get a job there, but I got a lot of opportunities. So one of the opportunities that happened to me was this intern who thought I worked there, but he was more there than I was, you know? He brought me a demo. He said, man, you should listen to this demo. It's this new kid from Houston, his name is Travis Scott. I'm like, all right, you listen to it. You know? Like, oh, this shit is hard. You know? So because I had access to the building, I was able to bring him in. He had like, you know, no hair, you know what I'm saying? He's bouncing around, you know what I'm saying? He played and shit. I was like, oh, this kid's crazy. So he had the same energy he has now on stage, you know, just like more ideas before Alpha and everything. So I'm bringing to the people I'm working for, I'm like, you got science kid right now? And I'm like, cool, should be cool, you know what I mean? So I don't really with it. And so he ended up going and signing a deal somewhere else, you know what I mean? But I built a relationship with him there because I just had access, because to Travis, I worked there, right? Because I saw you up there. So a lot of this shit is just finesse, you know? But because of that opportunity, because he got a big deal somewhere else, because I was the one who brought it in, I was able to secure a job at Def Jam. And this is like year 3, right? When I got the job at Def Jam, I was hungry. I was like, man, whoever they give me is gonna blow up, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm hungry, kill these people, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's work right now like that. You know? So they gave me 3 artists. They gave me Lil Reese, they gave me Lil Durk, and they gave me YG, right? Basically, they gave me all the gangster rappers in the scariest neighborhoods. So I didn't care, like I was hungry, I was going with it. Oh, we gotta go shot rap this time, you know? So the first trip I had to make was the shot rap. I had to do it about Lil Durk's manager called me, and I was barely getting money, man. Like I was just starting to get checks. So like, he's like, yo, can you fly out here over the break? So I'm like, man, I already got like $1,300 in my account. I don't know if I can do it. But like, yeah, sure, you know what I'm saying? So I booked the flight over the holiday break, booked the hotel, met all of them, and it was like 30 dreadheads in the room, all with jackets on, you know what I'm saying? And then they're just like, you just gotta wait for this one song, kind of really bring it. And they play me the song, This Ain't What You Want. And it was like a hard song. That was the first time I had a song that did anything, you know? Then I used to go to Compton, I used to go hang out with YG, and we bonded over a song, like a called Bumpin'. I'm like, yo, that's my favorite song of yours. He's like, that's my favorite song too, you know? So we became, now it's our bond, because people thought that he was local LA. And I just knew that people needed him. He was always dope in LA, but he was just on a New York-based company, so they didn't get it, you know? So I started working with YG, Lil Durk. Lil Reese forced me out of incident with a girl, so I trying to shelf his career. And then they started blowing up, and YG started breaking big. He wrote a song called My Name First. And this is about year 4, so this is like my first hit record, you know? And the song's blowing up, we playing it everywhere. And then we have another song called Who Do You Love? And we shoot the video for Who Do You Love? And I see, shoot the video for Who Do You Love, shoot the video for My Hit. And then we shoot a remix to My Name. Anybody know the remix of My Name? So who's on that remix? It's on like Lil Wayne, Meek Mill, and Nicki Minaj. So, so before she was on the remix, they like putting together the remix. Like, who can you call? You know, we need somebody in the remix. So I was like, man, I just didn't say nothing. I just tried to call Nicki's manager, right? So I'm like, you know, it's been 4 years now. It's a shot in the dark, you know. So I'm like, hey, you know, I think Nicki would want to do this remix. And he's like, you know what she charged, right? Just actually tell it to me, you know what I mean? And he called me back maybe like a day later, and he was like, you know, Nicki said she'll do it, and she said she'll do it for free, and she said she wants to talk to you. And we ended up meeting up at the video shoot, and I was talking on the phone, and she told me how proud she was of me, and so on and so forth, and that was like the full circle moment, you know. That was like, and then I feel like the feeling, and I feel like at least I was the least back on the trajectory I was at, you know what I'm saying? And that was like the biggest career moment of my life. And then the album came out, it did well, it was the #1 rap album, and I was like, man, these plans really work. you know? So I said, if this 5-year plan work, I need to come up with a 20-year plan, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm gonna teach you today, the difference between hustling with a big goal versus just hustling the hustle, you know? So, Tinker Hatfield, I didn't say that. Tinker Hatfield said, Tinker Hatfield's a famous designer at Nike, but you should know that you're Parsons, you know? Is you're a product of your imagination, not your environment, which means the whole world is really in your head. Everything you know, feel, see is right here, you know? So that's kind of how I'm going into it. So basically, I'm going to break down a 6-step process of how to be creative professionally. And this is going to be all objective. This has nothing to do with subjectivity. This has nothing to do with how good you are. This is just the stuff that you can do and apply to yourself right now to live a creative life. I just need everybody to do me a favor. Anybody has a piece of paper, if you have a book bag, just rip it out right now. If you have something to type on, type in it. I'd rather a piece of paper though, because I might need it. The first 3 questions, we're going to write out some goals. So just everybody get together. I'll give everybody about 15 seconds. No phones, guys.
Why no phones?
It's easy to retain when you write because it's something different when you have a piece of paper. Like it reinforces what you have. It's like muscle memory. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. That's why paper. So if you don't have a piece of paper, it's cool. Ask somebody next to you. If not, you're missing out. All right. So the first thing, I'll wait a little bit more. I need these papers too. All right. Thank you very much. Here you go, Tim. All right, let's get to it. The first thing I want everybody to do is to write down the first moment you ever felt creative. That could have been at a school play. That could have been, a piece of paper, art that your mother used to write on the wall. What's the first moment that you truly felt like, oh, I'm creative, like I'm dope, like this is cool, like, you know, it could have been Play-Doh, you know? It could have been anything, it could have been on a computer. Write down that moment, be like, just think back. Some people might have been recently, you know, it might have been a poem, it might be anything, it might have been a rap. When I was in high school, I used to write raps on like little chat rooms and stuff. You want to Kanye said I was on something called Boxing and SOHH.com.
Listen, I was on Boxing, bro. Go to chat.
I was
What's your name?
Nah. I used to write raps. So, I want you to write about it. I want you to think about being a creative as the TV show. It's the You Show, right? You're literally the star of the show. And whether you're a designer, how many people here are designers? How many people here make music? How many people here do graphics or anything? Any other kind of creatives in here that I should know about?
Film.
Photographer, actor,
Film.
videography, personality, DJ. It's all the same. It's all about everybody that you mentioned, right? So being a creative is like being a star of your own TV show. And whatever you get introduced to your world, your first big project that people see, that's the pilot, right? Like it might be your Instagram. So, oh, I love your photography. Can you do something for me? That might turn into a zine or a book or a show, right? If you're a designer, it might be like a final project. It might be something your girl wore. It might be something that somebody wore in a runway show, you know? If you're a rapper, that's your first mixtape. If you're a singer, that's your first EP. You know, that's the pilot, however you get help. And for the rest of your career are like seasons, right? After people are into you, now you gotta keep this level of illness, you only get better, you know? So maybe for like, what was the name of Al Farrow and Daily for Rodeo was probably like Travis's pilot. Cruising USA, that was a good one. What about Kendrick? What was his first project? It was before Section 80. Overly Dedicated. And it was something else I think with K-Dot, we're gonna say Kendrick Lamar EP. Yeah, Kendrick Lamar EP. These are all his initial pilots. So season 1 is like your first season, the first time somebody paying you to do it. And as your career goes along, that's how you develop season to season to season. So Kendrick is probably in, if Good Kid, Mad City season 1, what is he in season 4? If you count Untitled Master, you know? Travis is deep on to season 5. So you're involved in Kendrick now. You know everything about it, you know? I watched Jason Wu, you know who that is? Great designer, I watched him talk like a lot in LA. And he's like must be like season 12, season 14. So it never really stops, and it starts from your first pilot. So once you think yourself like that. So the first thing is the goal. What's the biggest goal? I want you to write this down. What's like the biggest thing you could think to accomplish in life? If you're a designer, is it winning an award? If it's a photographer, is it doing your own gallery show? If it's a rapper, is it winning a Grammy? You know? What's like the biggest thing, one moment you can think of that's like, okay, that's what I'm doing it for. I want you to write that down. Yes, Ali?
What if you don't have that goal?
I think you need some kind of goal only because you need to know when you achieved it. And then after you reach that goal, then you can make another goal. You know what I'm saying? The trick is you need something big enough to roll you out your bed, but you need something specific enough so there can be a step-by-step plan to get there. You know? So everybody got the goal there? Goal is one of the hardest parts. If you don't have it, don't feel bad. I didn't have it until I was about 26, 27. I was just hustling. Now it's the intent. Like, why do you want to do this? Like, why do you want to be a designer? Why do you want to be an artist? Was your dad a designer and you want to show him that you're just as talented and you can do it better? You want to be a rapper because you got something to say? You want to be a poet because you want to get back at ex-girlfriend or boyfriend? You know? Like, what is your intent behind it? One thing about the intent, if it has to do with money, I would skip it because one thing Quincy Jones said is, God walks out the room when you're thinking about money. So if you're trying to be a creative for money, I suggest you just walk out right now and go down to Wall Street, be a banker, a venture capitalist, you know what I'm saying? Get some private equity because that's not what this is about. This is about love. This is about art. It's the reason why I'm at Parsons. You know what I'm saying? Or else we could have went to some kind of technical school, like technically like business school or something, you know? So the intent has to be based in love and based in something, some drive, some real drive. Number 3 is sacrifice. Like, what are you willing to give up to get this goal? Because if you have to give up something, you know, Kobe's like, you gotta give up family, friends. You might have to give up family, friends, holidays. You might have to give up money, time. You might have to leave a different city. You know, this is where it gets tough. It gets real hard. I remember one of the hardest times I had was we had shot the video for YG, Left Right, I think it was. We shot that like on my birthday or the day before my birthday in LA. And I don't know if you ever tried to book a flight like right before a major holiday. That was expensive. And I didn't have money at the time to go back home. I just got that job. You know what I mean? I was locked into this project. So like, I said I was gonna stay home in LA. I don't know if anybody in LA is boring, you know? And I lived in a house with like 2 other guys, but they went back to Connecticut and Philly, respectively. And so like that morning of Christmas was the first time I woke up like without my family there. I don't know if anybody spent the Christmas without the family. It's not fun. You know, they FaceTime me and I could see them, but it was really hard. And I was like, man, I don't want to go through this again. But I wouldn't take it back because that's what I had to do to achieve the goal. And now I can see my family anytime I want. Now I come to New York 2 times a month, 3 times a month. You know what I mean? On a whim because I made that sacrifice. So you got to think with yourself, what are you willing to give up for real to get this goal? Another one is flow. How do you get things flowing and moving? Kenji, you spoke a little bit about routine. Now, what changed my life really initially as I was going through this 20-year plan was I was like, man, I kind of mentioned my 20-year plan to Kenji. Remember that whole thing, Parsons, for me, that whole thing. That's like my plan. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do 10 years in music, but I'm gonna work on photography and become a director. And then from there, I'm gonna do 10 more years in, and I'm gonna do politics and film. And I'm gonna shoot on film for a year or 2. Then I'm gonna do a show, then I'm gonna do a gallery. Next year, I'm gonna do video. So I'll be training my photography career real serious as I go along my music career, as I go along my speaking career. And, well, how do I do it? So one time my friend Amber Ravenel, she called me up and she's like, hey, I got this thing called the Miracle Morning. And the Miracle Morning is basically like, she's like, you gotta wake up every morning. This is like 2015. And I was really devastated at the time. I was working with, we just finished a rodeo album. And I didn't have any sense of diet. I was drinking a lot, you know what I mean? I wasn't working out. And I was just feeling like crap, you know what I mean? And she was like, can you do this thing with me? And basically I have to wake up every morning at 6 and wake up, wash your face, meditate, journal, write and say your intentions, work out, read for 15 minutes, meditate up, and then start your day, right? So I think if I got it right, it was meditate, journal, intentions. Everybody knows what intentions are? Mm-hmm. Intentions are basically like things you say every single day to get you going. Like mine is like, don't check your phone for 30 minutes after waking up. Design your day, you know, give great hugs. You know what I mean? I've worked on my intentions so much, so I have like 30, 35. Kenji, what are some of your intentions?
Make sure to breathe if I feel overwhelmed. Smile at people until they smile back. That's a New Yorker response. You don't like to smile at people?
So then I started that. I did that for 30 days. The girl didn't actually keep up with it, but I kept up with it. And it's kind of morphed. And now I really can't imagine my life without a routine. Now, 6 a.m. is kind of arbitrary. I would suggest you do it for at least 30 days. But the waking up and spending the first hour of your day focused on you is going to change your life. Because right now you wake up. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Right.
Check Instagram, check your phone, check your text. Now, if you think about what that is, what's Instagram, what's your phone, what's on your phone every time you read it. Your text messages are nothing but people wanting something from you. Except for your mom. Your mom just wants to know how you're doing. Sometimes she wants to know something for you too. Not your mom. And I think when you're on Instagram, there's just a bunch of people advertising towards you versus it's an algorithm that's they make billions of dollars trying to figure out what exactly you like, you know? So when I go on my Explore page, it's nothing but like Chef West videos and Steph Curry shots. So, and girls, you know what I mean? So it's like, you gotta get away from that phone. Just keep the phone away from you and just have the first hour of your day just about you. Because what you're gonna realize is you start getting in the flow. And you start doing this, you start working out for 15 minutes every day. And I don't like working out either, you know what I mean? But just do anything. You take a walk, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, do any kind of exercise. Read any book. The 15 minutes is arbitrary. Just read one chapter of any book. If you read one chapter of the book every morning, you're gonna finish like 2 books a month. You know? You meditate every day. Anybody here meditate? What's some of the benefits of meditating?
Clarity.
Calmness, spirit, stress relief, live in the moment,
Trance.
ease your mind, self-awareness, reframe. You know, anxiety. You know, you mix that in with, you know, Kenji, how many days have you meditated in a month?
Days 317. Between 10 minutes and 70 minutes. Yesterday I did a 70-minute session on the plane, LAX and And just one note on that. Sickamore also meditates.
I do.
And what do we use?
We use Muse, but you know, Muse. Some Muse is in there, right? It's like this headband. I'm not trying to sell it, but it really works. Like a headband. By the time I was using like Headspace for years, and it would help me to the point where like after a while, the lady's voice was annoying me, you know, the guy's voice, whatever. But the headband kind of like manages the flow. I really love it. It really changed my life. So I'm on day 25 myself. If I meditate tomorrow, 26 is the time I record, and you kind of like get up, like build yourself up, you know. And then you do some push-ups, you do anything. Just you'd be surprised after 3 days how you feel doing that. What happens after you build a routine? What happens is you get a flow. And there's a book called Flow. I still don't have to pronounce the guy's name. I'll tell you at the end of it.
We know chicks in beyond.
Thank you. And when you get in the flow, it's magic. And I don't know if anybody here has ever been in the flow, but you know when you have it. Like when you're making an album, you're making a mixtape, and then like maybe a couple weeks in, the flow doesn't happen right away, but it happens when you consistently do something every single day. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, after like 2-3 week mark, the songs is flowing. Like, I'm busting out designs. Like your whole season might happen like in a 3-day window because you're locked in, you know? You're like, man, I was killing it. So wherever you were, you have to revisit that. Like, and I'll tell you one place it's not gonna be is in your bed. Because your body associates your bed with sleep. So you need to go somewhere else. It could be on the patio, it could be to the library, it could be to your friend's house, but it has to be somewhere you can go every single day so your body resonates that with work. You ever heard somebody say, as soon as I lie on my bed, it's a wrap? Because your body associates your bed with sleep. But you need your body to associate someplace with learning and just getting busy in the morning before 9 a.m. And after you're in the flow, you know, you got the goal, got the intent behind it, it's the right thing, you made the sacrifices, built the routine and the flow, that's when the magic happens. Now the magic, some people will call it like quantum physics, you know? It's when things start happening, serendipitous moments just start happening for you. You know, the person who you always wanted to meets you, opportunities start calling you, people start seeing you like, man, what you been doing, man? You're just glowing. Things is just, everything's going cool, you're in the zone, and like, you don't even know why, you're just like, ooh, I'm killing it right now, you know? Now the magic state is the result of steps 1 through 4, but it's the most dangerous. Because what happens to most people when they reach the magic state, they start believing it's them and not the process. So what will happen is you're like, I ain't gonna work out now. I already got what I wanted. I got the job I wanted. You know what I mean? I'm gonna just go out and party till 2-3 a.m. and drink away so I can wake up at 9. You know? Like now you start breaking the routine. You start breaking the reason you got there. Now when you're in that magic state, that's like going in a Ferrari 270 miles an hour. Now to be in a Ferrari 270 miles an hour, first you gotta know how to drive a Ferrari. Then you gotta know how to move in a Ferrari. Then you gotta have extreme focus. So if you're just waking up whenever you want, not working out, not doing anything, what do you think's gonna happen if you drive a Ferrari? You're gonna crash. And that's the bad part about the magic. Is like you don't just fall off, you crash and burn. You know? One of the examples I like to use is Tiger Woods. Now, you don't have to know golf to know Tiger Woods' story. Tiger Woods practiced his whole life to get where he is, and he had the magic, everything was flowing. Then he started dealing with all kind of women, getting fat, losing injuries, and he fell off, gloriously. His wife started trying to hit him with a golf club. He started losing all the Masters. And then finally, I think this year, right, he finally got back. And he won the Masters again. But he probably thought he'll never get there again because he took it for granted. You know, and it took him that much longer after you fall off the magic to get back up. So you can't take this part for granted. It's something I do a lot. Every once in a while, you know, I meditate for 30 days. I'm like, man, it's me, man. Like, I got this. You know what I mean? Another shot in the sky. Let's go. You know what I mean? I'm rock. So I always fall off. And it always ends me somewhere bad. And I'll hurt myself, I'll hurt somebody I love. It's not a good place to be. So be very careful with this step because it's very real. You can fly in the right direction and you can fly in the wrong direction. But the trick about magic, if you can keep it consistent and you do it over and over and you don't fold and you do it from year in and year out, that's when you become a legend. Because what do you think Beyonce does? You think Beyonce ever has a week that she falls off? Hell no. You know, she's focused. Like legends, Kobe, all these people, Tom Ford, these people, they stay focused the whole way through and they understand steps 1 through 5. They never let people break them out of their routine. So like, I want you to understand your routine, these steps 1 through 5, it what gets you to 6. That what keeps you seasoned going on and on and on. Because you always hear about this artist, you always hear about this designer. Whatever happened to them? Where did they go? You know? Because they started believing it was them versus the work. And that's the main point, if I could drive home anything to any creators here today, that, you know, you could be a legend too. And right now I want to talk about the whole 12 steps with Mr. Summers.
Word. Well, that was incredible, right? Seriously, I have a new project now, and I have a goal that I have for it, and I'm about to go through this whole process. So, thank you, Sid. I start that tomorrow. But I think the reason that we're sharing the 12 steps together is because of, like, in the title's intersection where destiny meets creativity, is because once you figure out, like, what you need to learn and who you are, like, then you can go into, like, chunking it down, right? Finding projects I lead, right? So, like, you figure out what your destiny could be. Now you can create a goal within it. And so now you can keep finding, like, different goals to put on, like, you know, quarter after quarter, year after year, so on and so forth.
For sure. And, you know, this part is super important because you got to figure out why you're here and why you're doing it. And then the second half lets you know how to do it and manage it day by day. So, without further ado, we'd like to open up the floor for the Q&A. Ali, by the way, Ali. So this is Ali with the motherfucking dope right here. We found it. Yeah,
First, I want to thank y'all for doing this, because this should mean a lot, y'all. You know what I mean? So, I'm Ali with the dope, aka Yoshi 24K. Feel me? I'll be rapping this shit. Check my brother. Feel me? You already know. Appreciate y'all. Yo, bro, I was gonna ask, why 12? Like, why 12 steps? Feel me? Like, I had to do like a drug program for my shit. They had 12 steps too. Feel me? Like, I understood that. Feel me? So I want to know where the number 12 coming from. Feel me? That's
12. There you go. 12, it was kind of luck because, you know, Kenji had 6 and I had 6. I actually had 5 at the beginning of the year, and I did one of these talks up at Harvard. And then I was just like, the whole end of the talk was kind of like dreary, like kind of like warning. And I did some more studying, and I realized, oh shit, there's another level. And, you know, I might do this again next year, and it might be 7, you know, because I'm still learning every single day, just like we all are, you know? And I really think I'm onto something here, and I think Kenji's onto something here. And we're working every day till we master this program.
Is it cool if I ask more? Okay. It's cool if I ask more. Alright, so like, you see how you got the plans like Trinidad and shit, like going out to the where you from? So like, I know y'all know my pops from Raleigh, from West Africa. Like, I lived out there singing Shaq, like for me, I got sent out there and shit. So it's like, that's one main thing I want to do right now. And it's just like, damn, I don't know how to word my question, bro. Like, you have to come back to me about this?
Yeah,
I don't know how to word it. It's like, you feel me, bro? Like, my bad. I'm not in college like y'all, bro. My bad. I'm not.
I got to record it. All right.
What's up, guys? Good to see you guys again. You know, obviously we met this summer. I met you guys when Shaq wanted to play some ball at the gym. You know, Shaq, like, is a good dude, and obviously you guys are amazing at what you do. And Stick, I really do relate to you because I'm an immigrant too. I came here at 13 from Israel. Obviously, there's a lot of work with basketball. I'm 25 right now. I feel like, you know, I've done a lot. I've worked with Ron, with Kobe, with all those guys. And what is it that, you know, you talk about hustle, that's what I've been doing. You know, I went to NYU for psychology and I never really related to that. Like, I never really wanted to continue doing that. Sports was my thing. So, you know, being where I'm at right now, how do I take that hustle and, you know, make myself like more than that, like a brand?
Well, just be a brand. One thing I read with Tom Ford, he said to be a brand that's self-named, you have to live and embody that brand. So when Tom Ford wakes up every single day, he has to be Tom Ford. The way he goes to work is Tom Ford. The way he wears his clothes, the way he talks to people, the way he smells. Everything is Tom Ford. You know, if you're going to be a brand, a lifestyle, you can't break. You know, you're committed. It's almost like being a method actor. So, and that goes to being a rapper, being a poet, being an artist, being a designer. If you build a brand that's not authentic to you, it'll be impossible to keep it going. Because at some point, it won't be you or what's real to you, and it's going to come apart. You know, so I would just suggest you kind of build your brand around what's authentic to you and start from there. Like, this is what I like to do, so I like to see every day, and this is what I want to see in the world. And just kind of like, that big goal didn't come to me one day. That's months and months of music. Like, I went through a 5-year goal before I could come up with that 20-year goal. You know what I mean? This is a life journey that we have. It's not going to stop.
What I'll add to that is leave room for growth in your brand. You know, I already see what you're doing, and you already have eyes of people that, you know, I think a lot of us look up to. And so you just want to keep working on your craft, and that's something I think we haven't really talked about that is super important with music and advertising. I worked in strategy, and I got there from, you know, working with guys like Stan Lumax when I was an intern at Converse, and then to his point, like finding a mentor and then continuing to feed that mentor like good shit. Like, I remember he was at Anomaly and they had Converse as a client, and I wanted to work there, so I would send him literally links of cool shit I found on the internet or in real life about Converse, whether it be Chucks, Jack Purcell's, other things people were saying. I created threads on message boards and forums about Converse to kind of mine insights. And so your brand, make sure you don't box it in. Don't make your brand based on who you want to be tomorrow or next year. Make your brand kind of like on a 100-year plan. Shouts to Luigi. The idea is, think about your great-grandchildren, right? 100 years down the line, right? You want to think about what are they inheriting from your legacy. That's the true nature of a brand, right? Tom Ford is built and is building a brand that his great grandkids can like love and respect and be loved and respected for.
I want to go to somewhere to the back of the room, and I'll come back over here. All right, I'll go to the gentleman in the middle of it.
Ohio against the world.
Yeah, I already know. I appreciate y'all for doing this. I need to hear about the Muse band, because y'all went over that a little bit too quick. Tell me about that. Like, what does it actually do?
I'll start it off, Simon Mike. So, Muse Band essentially is just, have anyone heard about neurofeedback? You got to mute. So the idea of neurofeedback is that you get feedback based on your brain waves and what's happening, right? So your brain waves are, you know, different. There's delta, theta, beta, alpha, gamma, right? And so when you think about alpha, theta, that's kind of the sweet spot. And what that feels like is when you're relaxed, you're calm, you're in a flow state. And so what the Muse Band does is it tracks that feedback, and through earbuds that connect to Bluetooth and the app, you hear birds chirping when you're in the alpha theta state, when you're calm, relaxed, and you're meditating. When you're not meditating and your mind is busy, you hear thunderstorms, you hear waves crashing, and so that's when your brain's going into beta, which is a waking state, which for most of us, especially in New York, we're in beta all the time. And so the key on that, which comes down to like the magic or the visualization, is when you're in alpha and theta, you can reprogram your mind. So meditation, to the points I brought up earlier, yes, it does relax you, it does calm you, it does, you know, help with anxiety. It also can reprogram your mind and create a future that you want to live in, because your mind has no separation between reality and imagination, reality and fantasy.
What's going on, everybody? So first and foremost, thank you both again for taking the time to share this information with us. It was super helpful.
Can you say your name, where you from?
Most definitely. My name is Demetrius. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey, but I currently go to school out here at NYU. So I'm actually in my last semester at NYU. I'm a month and a half out from graduating, and I think one question I always have on my mind is, I have all this energy, I feel like I'm sharp and ready to work, but I don't know exactly where to direct it to. And I think this is a question that more seasoned professionals can also relate to. The question of, do you focus your energy toward people who have already established themselves in the game? So perhaps for you guys it would be someone like a Kendrick Lamar or LeBron James, or do you focus on branding and building younger artists such as a Shaq or a younger basketball player?
This is a great book that I suggest everybody read who's building up like a career. It's called The Startup of You by Reid Hoffman. And Reid Hoffman founded LinkedIn. So basically what it is he kind of treats everything like an ABC. as far as like your base career, what's going to supplement your career, and then what you're building towards in the future. So to answer your question, I heard Lisa Ray had a good quote about it. She said everybody always tries to build up, but they don't build from like side to side. And I truly agree with that. You know, when me and Kenji were walking around Brooklyn and Clinton Hill just trying to figure it out, we would run plays with each other versus like, oh, we need some like old heads to come figure it out for us. You know what I'm saying? So I think a good balance, if you can get a job to pay your bills, a mentor who would take your phone calls and meetings once or twice a week, and the rest of the time spend like this, building with the people you can. Because those are the people you come up with. Those are the people who are going to turn into a generation. You know what I mean? The other people are curvy sometimes, and try to play you. But these people, we're rocking together, and we can come up together. And, you know, you don't have to worry about equity in these things because we're starting it all together.
Yeah, my last thought on that would be like majors and minors. You know, think about like the major might be a full-time job that, you know, pays off your student loans or just allows you to have bread to eat, or have bread in your wallet. But then your minors are the things you're really passionate about that you get to work on with people that are like your peers and that are on the come up, right? That may not have made it yet, but that are on their way. I mean, we were literally those people 10 years ago, maybe like 2 years ago, where we had majors, right? We had full-time jobs, or we were working full-time, but then we had friends or people that are our peers that we just bounce ideas off of.
Thank you again, gentlemen, for being here. Like, I really appreciate the advice you gave. Like, super inspirational, the backstories and everything. I guess for myself, I'm a photographer. My name's Chris. I guess for myself is like personal experiences. For example, Sick, you work with an array of artists. You've had to shop for beats, not necessarily shop, but reach out to producers you've known and capture a creative sound, a cohesive sonic feel and sound. And for yourself, you're working with tons of brands, and you have to capture an idea. My guess for myself is, how do you look into yourself to connect with that person on the level that they want you to connect with them to bring their vision to life? You know, like, for example, like with the recent project with Travis, like reaching out to the people that you had to create that body of work, or any of your past projects. How do you guys like sit down and say, okay, how do I use these 12 steps to center myself, to connect with this person, and to produce their vision, or help produce their vision?
Well, I guess, Kenji, I'll talk about artists and then talk about brands. So I think for an artist, when you first start working with an artist, being an artist is a scary thing, you know, because like you go in a room, you go on your computer, you go in a dark room, make some sounds, you find some beats, then you put it out to the world, like, everybody listen, you know? That's scary, man. Like, it's not an easy thing. So if an artist is building up their career and they're doing things on their own and they're networking and they're moving and they at some point trust you to help them, to help you partner or help let you in on a dream, you can't take that for granted, you know? It's their dream that you're like deciding to work for. And it's like you have to be selfless about it, you know? Because they've made it this far. You know, to the fact that they're even talking to you about it, it shows how far they are. So I never really take that for granted. There's a creative bond that you could lose in a second. You know, like they could just shut off on you that quick. You know, if you just say the wrong thing, you have to lock in. Because then you never want somebody that's gonna be like, yeah, I'm working with you. Like, you ever had somebody like flake on you? Like, you guys supposed to like start a project. I remember when I started that first company from Brother Williams gave me the money to. It was called Sickamore and Sean's Entertainment. And so I used to go up every day, find the money and hustling. And then Sean just disappeared on me. Sean went down to Virginia. Sean was driving around. And he had the nerve to come to the opening like, yo, like, what's up, man? We partners. I'm like, nah. That's what it's like working with artists. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be in it and you're going to be in somebody's life, like, be in their life for real. Being the ups and downs. Don't try to just come around when things are going good. You know, make sure you go from the bottom to the top. Kenji?
So the question was how to put these 12 steps to use.
Yeah, and just also like connect with your artists or whoever's hiring you to, you know, capture their vision and execute the plan that you know would be best for them.
Yeah, I think compassion and empathy is like the first place to start. I think compassion and empathy are like essentially the foundation for love, and ultimately like you're putting love into your creative work or the creative work of someone else. So you want to make sure that they understand like their well-being is paramount and first and foremost. And I think why like I've had any success working with brands is because I've been fortunate to work with certain brands that I love, right? And I have compassion and empathy for. So if there was somebody that walked in that I could help, I was thinking about how can I get them where they want to go, sacrificing myself in the process. You know, linking it back to, you know, six steps to creativity. It might be dope to get somebody from like anybody just doing at Parsons. Like I definitely want to make sure like we get some folks in.
Okay, we'll get to it.
My name is Malik Kirkwood. I'm from Los Angeles, California. Sorry for the boring. I just have a question. I'm a trade active by profession, both film and theater.
inspired sense of creativity. And then on college, just graduated in May, or at least eventually. And then finding myself, like I work corporate or asset management firm. So while I recognize there's skill sets to be learned, and I find value in what I do, trying to maintain that sense of creativity and inspiration. Because a lot of times that job consumes your life. So if you can speak to the day to day, that's like
I might have worked more corporate jobs. I ain't got fired for more corporate jobs than anybody I know. I think ultimately, man, like I had to dress like this at certain points in my career. I had to like speak a certain way. I had to mediate my blackness. And at times it was soul-sucking, and it took a lot out of me, and I didn't have a lot left to get to a minor, right? But it was conversations with guys like this at coffee shop at like 6 p.m. on a Tuesday that got me going beyond like what was the 9 to 5. And I would say just make sure you keep your friends really close, and make sure you're okay with knowing that like you might not have it right now, and that later on it will be there. Because like I'm dressed like this on what's today? Tuesday. I just came back from a trip from LA, doing the Summit LA and Complex Con, seeing his guys speak. Like that was my weekend. That was my week, and that took 10 years to get to. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it'll take 10 years. You might do it in 5, might do it in 2. But I think just be cool with like your friends are going to be there for you, and then your friends might become your greatest collaborators.
And you also gotta have something that's really big on the side that's keeping you going. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that's driving you outside the acting thing. Like, if you're going for roles and doing the job, it might get a little boring. If you're working on a pilot with your friends, you know when I get off the 6s and it works, or if I finish extra shit, it's gonna be able to get money to hire the lineman or whatever. You think about it like that, then it's easy to get through. You know what I'm saying? So stay focused on why you're doing it. That was a big mistake I did when I lost with Nikki. I didn't have a bigger goal, so it was easy for me to quit. And for a long time, I quit on a lot of things that I shouldn't have quit on. And that was my life started to change when I stopped quitting. We're gonna do the last 3 questions.
How do y'all feel? Like, cause we can. How do y'all feel in terms of energy-wise? Like, do you want us to keep going through questions? Yo, shout out to Miles before we even get up going with this. Miles is coming in Boston. It started out with just like I was like, yo, we had a pretty good year. Yo, we should talk to some kids, might show what we know. And the first thing he said was, yo, I got somebody. His name's Miles. I know Miles. And Miles was there for us the last few months, man, just organizing things on an everyday basis, got a full-time job, he goes to school here. He sacrificed a whole lot, right? And he's one of those people that as a mentee, like, he gives me more probably, I feel like, than I can give him at times, right? And I feel like that's the mindset that anyone that's looking for a mentor kind of has to have. Because at times, your mentor's gonna, like, give you an overflow of riches and advice and mentorship, right? And then there'll be times when, like, you're giving them more because they're in a drought and they're working their corporate job and they just struggling to get through the politics, right? The bureaucracy, the red tape. And he's got inspiration from a young person that is like, fuck that. Like, I don't know the red tape. I don't know the bureaucracy. I don't know the politics. Shouts to Miles.
Shout out to Miles, young being.
So actually building off of that last question, because my name's Dylan, and I'm a student here at New School, actually in the organizational change management program, so not Parsons, but I just landed a contract where I'm building out a creative consultancy. So for the guy who's talking about feeling like you need some sort of creative spark in a, like very bureaucratic thing, I'd like to hear about stuff like that where you feel like you can be inspired. That's what I'm trying to do. But also, the reason I got this was because somebody kind of lived for me. Like, they were saying, like, oh, I'm blowing up. Like, somebody kind of did that for me. And I just wonder, like, that's been a huge issue for me, like, morally, ethically. Like, I want to be real with, like, where I'm at in my, just getting to where I'm going. And I wonder if you think, like, the landscape is changing so that we can be more honest with one another. Like, I don't know. I know what you've got me on, but.
So, like, you're kind of doing something now, and you feel like you're not 100% proud of it, or you are proud of it. Like, you guys make me a little more.
No, I am super proud, and I'm really confident in my abilities to do this, but I don't have the previous experience, we're figuring it out together. And I think to like a certain extent, people want to know, like, oh, no, I'm a professional, I'm an expert, and like, how honest can you be, like, no, I haven't done this before, but I know that I can, like, do you think that you can land clients by talking like that, or do you think there has to be a certain, like, fibbing, like, oh, no, I'm just,
Well, it's something they call imposter syndrome, right? And it's people who are corporate Fortune 500 CEOs and stuff with, like, they really think, am I that good? Am I really that, great. The good thing about youth and energy is people are betting on potential versus experience. There's always going to be somebody with more experience than you. But because of the way the market goes, if I put out an album 5 years ago, I have no clue how to put out an album today. If I took photos 5 years ago, it might be totally different. You know, if I'm designing 5 years ago, right now it's totally different. So experience is subjective. You know, what you want to always bet on is potential. You know, that's what everybody in this room has. They have potential. Because you can always learn the game. You can always learn the roles. You see what I'm saying? But you can't teach taste. You can't teach energy. You can't teach like spunk. You know, and that's what they're betting on you for. So you think they want you because you have all this experience. They don't. They want you because you don't have all the background and the red tape and everything. They want to spark in new ideas. So what you're looking at as a negative is actually your biggest positive. Thank you, Robin.
I just want to say thank everybody for being here right now, because not just these two people, but without everybody here, this wouldn't even be possible. So I just want to thank everybody here. Show some love for each other, But I go by Carlo, and I'm going to just introduce myself like this. Listen. Walk through my city, understand struggle is prevalent. Living to die, that's why we all after the presidents. Look in yourself and you'll receive all of the evidence. I represent the revenant, and this my holy testament, heaven sent. In the midst of all the detriment, with father stay irrelevant, and weed smoke is medicine. Living by the cycle, so you know what they'll be peddling. It's off the handle, hit the brakes, stop jetting in. So quick to ride out when the peer pressure on. Not a moment dipped in heat, cold feet can't respond. In the streets, nothing weak will be drawn. So that boy lost his life over strike, now he gone. Trying to prove he's strong, trying to prove he can't hang. So he gang bang, man, I swear it's all wrong. Better help me write the song, word, shit. Again, the message prolonged, shit. But yeah, let that be a little introduction. I call it. Right? Thank you, appreciate that. I'm not done. No, I'm not done. No verse, now I'm gonna talk. I just want to, you know how people say, oh, I come from this place and I was born here. I just want that to be the introduction, you know? So, let me just say, a lot of questions have been answered here. Like, my intuition brought me here. I don't know, I was following Jimmy right here, shout out to you, right? I've been following him for a while, and through him, I followed Miles, and I saw this post on Miles' story. So that's where I just RSVP'd. Mind you, like, I've always felt like I could be an A&R because I just, like you said, you can't teach taste. It's just something that, you know, you have. And being Dominican, you feel me, like you throwing spices on the food. That's what we do, we know it. You know, we season food, you go to a Spanish household and you know that's about to be good. Like, straight up. So, I don't know, I just feel like I have this inclination. Like, I just know what's good, I know what's popping. I know it. And, like, if you could just give me the opportunity right now, give me your email, your phone number, anything, I will put together more than just myself, because I know my place, and I know somebody that if I was to take their art and put it into my hands and craft it and show it to one of y'all would see the potential. So if I could just get this opportunity, an email, a phone number. All right, so I'll start with my email. Everybody ready?
All right, so the trick with sending somebody an email, if you don't know, because I've been part of this too, right? Is the subject, you gotta make sure you say, like, if you ask a question, like, I asked a question of this, you know what I'm saying? And just get right to the point, don't put like 3 minutes, just where you're like, right, so it's just a captivate. So it's S-I-C-K. You gotta be ready. Bro, Sickamore. Sickamore? Yeah. .co. So not .com, that's .co. So just Sickamore.co. Syckamore.co. And to answer your question about how to be an A&R, what makes like a great A&R is that you gotta find what you're best at. Some people are great, like A&R is breaking up to 4 parts, right? It's like you're either great at research, you're either great at the streets, you either get at the office politics, or you're great at the studio. Nobody's great at everything. Like, I'm not great at research. So if you're great at research, you can find new artists and producers all day. That's what I need help with. But I'm like amazing in the studio, and I know how to move in the street. You see what I'm saying? And now I've learned how to work in corporate America. But I know my weak point is the research. Because technology, things are moving. When I was like 10 years ago, I would know every single person that came out on Narwhite or whatever. But now, Narwhite don't exist. So I need help in that way. So, and then make sure you have your specialty, because you feel like you're great at everything, great at all the sounds, but no one's great at everything. So just have like a superpower. So like, if your superpower is new NYC rappers, if your superpower is neo soul singers, if your superpower is power singers, if your superpower is Cali artists, like whatever your superpower is, you focus on that, so you have a niche, and that's how you can get big. And mostly anything, but especially A&R. But yeah, I got somebody for you. All right.
So, I just wanted to speak more to
to conviction. Conviction. Is it the same thing as when you feel strongly about something, or is it something else? Like, I know what conviction is. I know what feeling strongly about something is, but in this sense, what were you getting at with your 6 steps?
For sure. So the idea that I had around conviction was that a lot of us have beliefs. Beliefs turn into values over time. Values transform conviction to live for things, right? So like based on your lived experiences, like what things are you convinced are true about the world that you live in, right? Yeah, you got burned. So you're like, no, I got this is it. This is why it worked. But being open that over time, if that happens again, your convictions can be updated. So it's like still being perpetual beta, but when you have beliefs, people can manipulate out of those beliefs. I worked in advertising for a long time. And so what happens is advertising is designed to get you to buy things you don't need and believe things you don't understand. So the problem with checking your phone first thing in the morning is you're being programmed to buy things or believe in things that aren't for your best interest. When you have convictions, even if you're waking up to that stuff, you still have a filter that can take that away, right? And keep you on path. Does that help answer?
Coming up before your first season, you can have convictions about like the wrong things, and like what it took to get you here might not get you there. So that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you build your convictions to take you out the gate to get you the season beyond?
So like, everything that I was speaking to, like you got to live it. Like it's not really a talking thing. So I can tell you my convictions all day, but if you don't see me peaceful during times of challenges, well, that's really not a conviction, right? If you see me getting upset because I'm like, oh, that person's against me, that person has it out for me, I'm not living my convictions. So your convictions come down to like your self-inventory, but also your boy has to keep you, or your girl has to keep you honest. Family member has to keep you honest if you're living up to your convictions.
I feel where you're coming from too, because like when I was coming up, like growing up in New York, you naturally have an attitude, and like anything would set me off. When I was younger, I was like, I'm young, so everybody's trying to play me. You know what I mean? The waiter went with my water, so I was snapping. You know what I mean? But like Kenji said, I have mentors and friends like, yo, everybody's not trying to play you. You know what I mean? And I have to go on my own spiritual journey to kind of cleanse inside. There's a lot of books that I read, like The 4 Agreements, The Power of Now, Mastery of Love, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, Flow, Synchronicity. I just read that one. You know what I mean? It's a journey. It goes up and down. So you got to do a lot of internal work too. You know, my mom, the first book my mom always used to try to make me read was Think and Grow Rich. She was like, you gotta read this book, you gotta read this book. You know what I mean? And I read it when I was younger, but I was a little too young. And I started rereading it as an adult. I was like, oh yeah, this book's true. You know what I'm saying? And I read that book maybe about 4 or 5 times now, and it's a lot of power in it. You know, so I think like balancing out like a business book versus a spiritual book, because sometimes, you know, when the times get dark, that's what's gonna get you through it. And in this day and age, what I didn't have when I was coming up was like YouTube. So you don't even have to finish the whole book now. You can watch like a talk. You know what I mean? Like, word up. Like you get a whole book in 40 minutes. You downloaded the whole thing. You know what I mean? So some of the people I look to now is like English Jerome, Joe Dispenza, Don Miguel Ruiz. There's a lot of people that kind of help me balance out. And Eastern philosophers like Alan Watts. A lot of people just kind of like, you got to do a lot of the internal work too, so you can kind of get to that point. Because you're your own worst enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like procrastination, self-hate, doubt, toxic relationships. There's one thing that I read that I forgot which book now, but people only treat you as bad as you treat yourself. You know what I'm saying? So if you're in a toxic relationship, whether at work or at home or a family member or friends, they're only going to treat you as like, if you don't accept that from yourself, you won't accept that from other people. Like if you smell good, you're not gonna have somebody who's smelling bad in the house, you're gonna go watch up. You know what I'm saying? But if you like treating bad yourself, that's what you're gonna attract. So make sure that you hold yourself to a higher standard, and the rest of the world will do so as you do.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm originally from North Carolina. But this question is geared toward Kenji, but I guess for both of you, since you work in strategy, I took a course called The Strategist, so I got like super obsessed with strategy. So I'm just wondering, like, with the barrier of different industries being like low right now in tech, like what are unconventional methods that you use for different strategies for your brands and artists to like move through that oversaturation of content that we have available?
Well, that's a really good question. So how have I used strategies to get through the barriers of oversaturation of content?
I won't get oversaturation like it's bad thing, just because there's so much.
There's a lot of flags.
Like, how do you stand out?
How do you stand out? It's going to be like going back to what we already set up. It's like really figuring out what your goal is, and then your intent, what you're willing to sacrifice. Those steps. I'm not saying they're like gospel, but I think a lot of it comes down to like those are things that we tested out, right? So if I look at it from my life experience, it's been all right. If everyone's zigging, how can I zag, right? If there's been a societal disruption and the traditional ways aren't working, what are the unconventional ways that a subculture is using to navigate this new terrain? So really, like, before I think about strategy and I think about marketing, I think about what's happening in culture. Like, what are people doing below the line, right? Below what the marketers are looking at. Because by the time it gets to marketing, it's already been co-opted and packaged to be sold, right? I think you got to look at like what's happening within subcultures and the lifestyle that those people are living. If you're one of them, you're living within it, great, you can just pull from your own experience. If you're not, I would say start looking at ethnographies and people that have done ethnographic research where they literally embed themselves in those subcultures and they learn what they can learn from them, and then they go out and they try to help their client. But do it with compassion and do it with empathy.
What's going on, guys? My name is Rob. I'm from the Bronx. I'm actually a podcaster. The name of my podcast is Public Service Announcement. You've been on for like 3 years. You've done amazing interviews. But my question to you guys is, I balance myself between consistency and innovation. And I feel that between those two spaces, it's hard to do both and try to maximize your innovation to be creative and new, but stay consistent to who you are and the things that you make yourself proud of with your peers. So you see yourself having that same battle back and forth between consistency and innovation.
You know, they have Zuckerberg has a really good quote. It says, move fast, break shit. You know what I'm saying? So the trick with what you build is to get it to market as fast as possible, and don't be afraid to fail and pivot in real time. You know what I'm saying? So you might have a great idea for a Say podcast, and when you drop it, people really like the inspirational talk on the podcast because it's made by hip hop. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, cool, we gotta pivot towards this. You might have to change your name. You know what I'm saying? But the trick is not to get paralysis by analysis. Don't just wait, working by yourself or with your team, never get to market, and then you're ahead, then the market catches up to you. Like, somebody stole my idea, but like you didn't get to the market fast enough. You see what I'm saying? So the trick is innovate while on the road. Don't wait to innovate. Don't ever wait till something's perfect, because it's never gonna be perfect. By the time you get it perfect, the time is gonna be off. You know, so you gotta just get it to market and change as you go. You see a company like Amazon, it changes every day what the business is. You know what I'm saying? You're the soul of the business, you're the soul of the innovation, so you really gotta bet on yourself and just jump out there. Hurry up and fail. I wanna get somebody on this side of the fellow again, like on this side.
Thank you. My name is Dan Floyd, and this question is for Kenji. Do you use meditation scripts? And how do you formulate your meditation scripts?
My brother said, do I use meditation scripts and how do I formulate my meditation scripts? Yes, I do. And I think meditation kind of seen one way, right? It's kind of monolithic right now in society. So the way that I typically have started to use meditation is writing a script based on a scenario that I'm experiencing, that I'm having trouble with or challenged, or is a problem that I want to frame into an opportunity. But when I do that, there are different steps I take that involve understanding like what's governing the situation, spiritually and then like physically, right? And then through that, trying to figure out what are the things I'm willing to sacrifice, who are the people that I can help, that can benefit from what I'm going through, like when I actually achieve what I want, right? So having a goal, knowing that when I get that goal achieved, there'll be other people that indirectly or directly are affected positively by my results, and then when I get to the end, like giving thanks to the Most High. And then so when you go into meditation, after you memorize that meditation script, now you're literally running it because your brain's like a motor. So once you're finally in a meditation, you're like in a trance state where you do not have the competition thoughts from the outer world, right? And so
clearest way to put it is like you can like get things quicker. You can make reality come from fantasy or imagination quicker. Did I answer it?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing all these words of wisdom. Hi, Sick, so good to see you. I have a question. As a female, part of what I do as an entrepreneur is hustle, but I've never considered having compassion and empathy. So, like, how do you balance kind of being cutthroat and direct and getting people to take you seriously, but then having compassion and empathy at the same time? Because I tend to cut that off when it comes to money or security.
That's a great question. And I might not have all the answer for it because ultimately we all have like identity matrices that we navigate the world through, right? And so, you know, we're from Brooklyn, we're black, we're men. Those are identities that we came up with, right? So maybe we can navigate differently than you can or she can or he can. Ultimately, what it all comes down to is like we're all one, we're all beings. And so if we can start showing that empathy and compassion to ourselves, but still maintain that hustle, and that's still a complex, you know, holistic identity matrix, we just gotta be comfortable saying that we are all these things, but we need to be those things at different times and in different situations. So you still be all those things. You still be that. You can still be fierce, you can still be compassionate, you can still be loving, you can still be a hustler.
I think the question's in two parts. You know what I mean? As far as I work with a lot of strong, brilliant, fantastic women. You know, both below and above me in my life, corporate and personal. You know, and one thing I would suggest any woman to have in this room is a strong network of other female entrepreneurs and networks. You know, because sometimes when you deal with just men, you know what I mean, it's a disconnect. You know what I'm saying? So I've always suggested my fellow female entrepreneurs, you know, anyone, build your own network of women. You know, because sometimes like the boys club, you kind of make it into a thing. You know what I mean? I'm very like aware of it. You know, my old boss, you know, I worked for a company that the president was a woman, the head of legal was a woman, head of marketing was a woman. You know, all these different women, these top parts. And that was the first time like I really seen that work on a high level versus like another company that I worked for. Everybody was like a white male. You know. So I say getting that network of women and really locking in. It's fun time to meet up with them as a group, one-on-one. That kind of helps with that. As far as being cutthroat or whatever, it comes back and forth. As long as you just kind of keep it on business, you know, I don't think anybody's gonna hold it against you. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be, as long as it doesn't get personal, people can identify like, this is the line I stand on. You know, lawyers do a great job of that. You know, they find the jargon or the reference point, they're like, okay, cool, we're not moving off this. This is my president, I'm not president, I'm not moving, you know? So I think it's like the healthy balance of the both, you know? Because having boundaries is good, having deadlines are good, goals are good, and knowing self-worth is all great things, and you should never lose that.
Yeah, what's going on? My name is Sean. I'm from the Bronx in Brooklyn. I'm a DJ and an up-and-coming entrepreneur. I just started my own company called Price Agency. About to start my own production company with my partner DJ Flip right here with me. My question is, like, to the both of y'all, what would be your advice? Like, because life happens to all of us. Like, we just go through all types of things in like life. But like, what would be your advice to like really get your like creative juices flowing? Like, going to like whether you're in your business or for yourself or trying to reach a goal. Like to get back on track creatively within yourself. Like in case something happens and you fall off or something like that.
Okay. I would suggest I was listening to a podcast with with Rick Rubin and Tim Ferriss. And he asked Rick Rubin, what would you do if I didn't have any taste in music, I didn't know nothing about good music, and I wanted to start from scratch? How would you do it? He said, well, you would go to Mojo's top 100 albums, and you would listen to every single one of these albums. And I said something wrong before, you can't teach tapes, but you can. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot of research, it takes a lot of time, you know what I mean? A lot of library work. Like, go look, if you want to get better at music, listen to the top 100 albums from 3 different lists. Just listen to a different album every day. Right now, I'm trying to get better at learning creative directors in the fashion industry. You know what I mean? So I'm studying all these people. I had a meeting this morning with this old woman who's a career in fashion. I asked her to send me 10 creative directors that I can understand. I didn't really understand anything about film, you know, maybe 10 years ago. And I made a list of about 50 directors that I studied each director, and I watched 5 to 10 of their films each. And then I flipped it, you know what I mean, and watched by genre and then Academy Award films. So you can get better at anything. You can even improve your taste. What I said before was wrong. You just have to be studious and just take it day by day. If you watch one movie, if you watch one film a day from Spike Lee, by the end of the month you'll be a Spike Lee expert. Then you watch Tarantino the next month, then you watch Fellini the next month, then you watch Stanley Kubrick the next month. You do that for a year straight, You might miss out on some TV, but you might be a film expert. You know what I mean? You might be great. So, you know, that's all. All right, we got one more question. That man right there in the orange is going to pick it out. Maybe somebody in the front, this side. And by the way, we have this space for a while, so if you gotta go, I appreciate you coming. And if you're like our friends personally, just come by and say hi, just cut to the front. If you just have a question about things, we're gonna stay here for as long as possible and answer questions. So that's the plan.
What's going on? My name is Cardi. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm currently a music manager. I manage an artist. His name is Lisette. I mean, you talked about like reaching goals and having incentives and intent. And like some of those things and those steps, I've already implemented some of those things, and I feel like now the creative part is now mixed with the business. And in the business, there's a lot of like just red tapes and budgets and different things. So it's like you can actually hit a goal. Like a goal of mine was to get an artist signed. I didn't know this kid from anywhere. Pulled him off the internet, brought him, moved him to New York, and he got a deal like 10 months into living in New York with me. But now we're at this part where now it's like business is also colliding with the creative. And like my question is just like, how do you, once you hit goals and you hit some of the things that you thought that, you know, you want where you wanted to be, and now it's like this whole new chapter of like just business, but you still want to be a creative, but you know, the business is it comes before the creativity at some points. So how do you stay just in a creative space, but also, you know, looking towards the future, knowing that, you know, the creativity is taking a backseat to the business?
It's not taking a backseat per se. I think when it comes to goal setting, after you have a goal, the next trip is to have a bigger goal. You know, I would say for that goal, maybe getting a deal wasn't a big enough goal to offset. Maybe it's releasing a successful album, maybe having a hit record, maybe doing a tour. Those are goals that would have got you through. So when you got the deal, there's a term that says signed and retired. Is when somebody signs a deal, whether it be a big basketball, sports contract, or a deal, they just get lazy because that was their goal. I meet a lot of young A&Rs, you know, like people like Carlo who come up to me like, I can find this person, I can find that person, I can find that person. But then they don't know that me signing an artist just is another like burden. You know what I'm saying? Like I still have to make that work. You know, I still have to make that successful. So their goal is to get somebody a deal. My goal is to make somebody a success. My goal is to put out a successful album. So the goals are different. So your job as the business part of the creative is to manage the creative process. You're like, listen, I'm gonna make sure I get you enough money, I'm gonna make sure you can finish your album, I'm gonna deal with the politics, and you gotta take all the bullets because you're representing, and you gotta navigate that space. Maybe you're gonna have to go to dinner with that person you don't want to have to go to dinner with. Maybe you're gonna have to go to a mixer, maybe you have to go to a label twice a week, you know? And you're gonna have to play the politics because that's your role in this thing, to protect him and make sure he's able to be creative. The second that some of the negative stuff starts seeping to the artist, that's on the person representing the artist. You see what I'm saying? It's like the label is calling the artist directly, he runs out of money, that's on you to protect him. That's also on you to keep him accountable. Like, we're gonna spend 14 days in the studio, we gotta finish it, we gotta do a song a day. Let me get you different people, let me bring you a notebook for inspiration. So my job as an A&R or creative director is the label wants it under budget, on time. The artist wants it classic, he wants it good, and he wants his art protected, but they both want it in a timely fashion. And I have to juggle that. You know what I'm saying? I have to explain to them why he needs more time. I need to explain to him why he needs to finish up. You know, and that's something that I worked with maybe about 8, 9, 10 artists before I worked with YG who all failed on a different level, who never had a hit record, that I managed, consulted for, put on my mixtapes, and it was failure after failure after failure after failure after failure. So now when somebody looks at me now like, man, you popping, you got all these people, because from 2012 to 2018, I've been killing it. But from 2001 to 2012, I was failing. So the only thing that I did right, they would just not give up. You know, and sometimes, and another thing I would suggest to anybody is never partner for somebody or work with somebody or work with an artist or a creative or a business partner that you work harder than. Never. I wasted a lot of years. I wasted a lot of years working with people who I out-hustled, who I went harder for their dream than they did. And I wasted a lot of time doing that. A lot of those 11 years were just like believing in somebody, and they wouldn't get up and do the job. I would show up and they would show up late. they wouldn't wake up on time, they would miss the opportunity, they would miss the flight, they would miss the meeting, they would miss whatever the opportunity is, because as an entrepreneur, as a creative, you had no so much. You gotta do so much bullshit. When you finally have an opportunity to say yes, you don't want your partner in your LLC to embarrass you, you don't want your designer to embarrass you, you don't want your manager to embarrass you. The second you feel like you're working consistently harder than them, drop them. You need somebody who's gonna wake you up every day, like, yo, what we doing? How we doing this? Where we going with it? You know what I'm saying? Me and Kenji keep each other accountable. You know, me and Kenji and Mom's been on the same group chat about this day since the middle of July, August. You know what I'm saying? Talking every single day, keeping each other accountable throughout different works and projects. And you know, we cut off time and things I could do to be here, and because we kept each other accountable, the three of us, until we saw this thing to fruition. But if one of us would have fell off, this whole thing would have fell apart. But all of us pushed each other. Just make sure you're only as strong as your weakest link, and no one does it alone. So make sure you push. Make sure, don't be afraid to give somebody's ass if they're doing wrong. You know what I mean? Just because if they're doing wrong and they're slacking, and you're not pushing them, you're just as accountable. You gotta call them out. Like, where's the report you said you're gonna have? You said you're gonna have the design by Thursday. It's Friday. That's not being annoying. That's not being. That's being who you're supposed to be. And they're gonna thank you later for it. They might be mad. You might get a screaming match. You might hang up the phone on you or whatever. But they're gonna call you back and you're like, thank you for pushing me. Thank you for not letting me settle. So if you got somebody in your life that you feel like is not really doing it, you make sure you call them as soon as you get out of here and just get in their ass a little bit. And sometimes it's just what you gotta do.
Thank you for coming to Intersection, Diversity, Meets Creativity. For those that want to still stick around and ask questions, we have the room for what? 30 minutes or so we can get into questions on the front, make it super casual. Please come up to the front before you leave. Show love. We appreciate y'all for showing us love. And thank you everybody for coming. If you're leaving now, have a great, safe night. Hope you voted.
Yo, let me get your number, bro. Let's link up with each other.